The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit and the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Corporal John Francis Heald. John Heald was born on the 20th of September 1892 in the small town of Waratah in northwest Tasmania. He was the 9th of 11 children born to Margaret and John Heald, 10 of whom survived infancy. John attended school locally and went on to work as a farmhand. In August 1914, the First World War broke out. Heald's younger brother Henry volunteered for service in the Australian Imperial Force in July 1915. In September, following his brother's departure from Australia, Heald also enlisted. He spent the rest of 1915 in initial training at Claremont Army Camp, north of Hobart. He travelled to Melbourne at the end of the year, and from there he sailed on board the transport ship Afrique in January 1916. He arrived in Egypt just as the AIF was preparing to sail for Europe. He undertook further training in Egypt and sailed to Marseille in southern France at the end of March 1916. From there, he travelled north by train to the area around the Somme River. In May 1916, Heald joined the 26th Australian Infantry Battalion. The battalion spent May and June moving between the frontline trenches and training in rear areas. During this time, the unit came under German artillery fire and carried out trench raids on enemy positions. At the end of July, the 26th Battalion entered battle for the first time on the Western Front. Along with a large number of British and Australian battalions, the 26th Battalion took part in the attempt to recapture the ruined village of Pozières, which German forces had occupied. In early August, the unit captured German trenches. During a German counterattack, Heald was struck in his shoulder by a shell fragment and wounded. He was evacuated to hospital in England and recovered there until October. He then moved to a training battalion on Salisbury Plain to regain his strength. In February 1917, Heald returned to France and rejoined the 26th Battalion. He left his unit at the end of March to train in the use of trench mortars, but an illness cut his training short. He spent time recovering in different hospitals in France and rejoined the 26th Battalion in early September. At this time, British commanders had shifted their focus north to the Franco-Belgian border. Moving eastward from the city of Ypres, Commonwealth forces fought to capture their final objective, the high ground at Passchendaele. The 26th Battalion took part in two major actions in the campaign: the Battle of Menin Road in late September and the Battle for Broodcinder Ridge in early October. Heald was an effective soldier, and after the battles, he was promoted to Lance Corporal. In January 1918, when his unit was in a rear area, Heald was detached and attended training in defensive measures against gas attack. He returned at the end of January. The 26th Battalion took part in the fighting to turn back the German spring offensive of March and April 1918. After the failure of the German offensive, the battalion carried out small-scale trench raids in the vicinity of the French village of Villers-Bretonneux. In July 1918, one of these raids was the first to capture a German tank, which was nicknamed Mephisto and brought back to Australia after the war. Soon after the tank capture, Heald was granted 2 weeks' leave in England. When he rejoined the unit in early August, British and Commonwealth forces were preparing for a major offensive against German positions. Beginning on the 8th of August, the 26th Battalion took part in heavy fighting as the German hold on France was slowly pushed back. Heald was promoted to corporal during this period of fighting. On the 29th of August 1918, the battalion launched an attack with the objective of capturing the Somme Canal, which would allow uncontested river crossings to attack major objectives further east. The attack began early in the morning and faced stiff resistance. At some point during the day, Heald was killed in action. John Heald was 25 years old. His comrades buried his body near where he fell, but in the confusion following the battle, the location of his grave was lost. His name is inscribed on the Australian National Memorial in Villers-Bretonneux, alongside more than 10,000 Australian soldiers who died in France and Belgium and whose last resting place is unknown. Heald's younger brother also served in the 26th Battalion. Private Henry Gilbert Heald served in France and was wounded in August 1918, returning to Australia in January 1919. Corporal John Francis Heald is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Corporal John Francis Heald, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, We will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man, lying out there at Pozières, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.